All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Got a big crowd here tonight, so we're gonna go through all this and if you guys have questions along the way, feel free to pop in and we can help answer those as we go. So this last year, I don't know if either one of you guys joined us last year for this, but it turned out we had a lot of good feedback from it. It was just an opportunity for people who had larger locations to share ideas and kind of go through some specific needs that they have, because obviously those of you that have larger locations tends to take a little bit more planning. This kind of what we're bringing out today. We want to thank Brenda Kaiser, one of our location coordinators at Miramar National. She was not able to be on tonight, but she put a lot of work into this, giving us resources and sharing some of the templates that she uses and kind of how she plans out stuff. So planning a wreath laying ceremony for a large location takes a team of volunteers. It's important to start your planning early in the year so that your efforts during the season can be more focused on the event itself. You want to get started by creating a task list with check-in dates, and then create your team of support and delegate tasks. Regularly communicate with sponsorship groups to encourage their participation all year round and involve them on Wreath Day. And don't forget to thank them for their support. You want to also do outreach with local businesses to secure corporate sponsorships for both veteran wreaths and in-kind donations of supplies and equipment that you might need for your event. And you can customize your Wreaths Across America page with specifics for your event so that your community knows exactly what to expect, where to be, and when to be there. And page alerts are a great tool to use too. So after hearing from many different location coordinators who organize wreath placement for large locations, the key to succeeding is delegating. It takes a lot of work to make Wreath Day happen, and many hands make light work. So some of the tasks that you can delegate are organizing very specific requests, gathering in-kind donations, planning out ceremony details, arranging help to unload the trucks, counting boxes, and collaborating with the cemetery staff, staging and distributing the wreaths fairly amongst all the people attending, day of logistics, and planning for wreath cleanup. And we're going to have go into this a little bit more in some of the other slides, so I'm not going to read everything here verbatim. We will have these slides available for download on the volunteer resource page, so you guys can take your time and read through everything as well. So when it comes to planning the ceremony, it can be more challenging for larger locations. Some things to consider are where your ceremony will be held. Can everyone in attendance see and hear clearly? Will you need to borrow a sound system so that everyone can hear you? And do you have seating available for those who may need it? You can reach out to the USO or Red Cross to ask if they will provide a trailer for water and first aid. If you will need porta potties, you can ask a company that provides them to donate them for the event and place them in easily accessible areas. You can also check with local companies like Home Depot or Lowe's and ask them if they can donate items like chairs, gloves, and safety vests that you might need. Check with local print companies. They might be willing to donate the cost of printing programs, maps of the cemetery, and proper wreath placement instructions. Ask a local floral shop or a funeral home if they will let you borrow 8 stands for ceremonial wreaths. Another option to consider is asking a local woodworker or youth organization to make you wreath stands for you to use year after year. Keep in mind, though, if you make those wreath stands, that you want to make sure you have somewhere to store them. You also want to have volunteers ready to greet local media with press kits, line up a photographer or videographer who's willing to donate their services for the event. And keep in mind, this is something I just learned this year from Janelle, that you have to get approval at least 45 days prior to the event if you're going to do drone photography, videography at a national cemetery. Makes sense? We learn something new all the time. And don't forget to show your love for local companies, groups, or individuals who went above and beyond to help make Wreath Day possible at your location. Thanking them for their support at the ceremony and listing them in your program is a nice way to show your appreciation and encourage their involvement the next year. Handling grade-specific requests is a big undertaking, especially for larger locations, as I'm sure you guys know. You want to assign a team of volunteers to coordinate the placement of the grade-specific wreaths, so it's one less thing that you have to stress over. You can also reach out to your local hardware store to see if they will donate surveyor or American flags to help you mark the graves ahead of time. This is an excellent way to let others know to leave those veterans' graves for loved ones to place the wreaths themselves. After the cutoff date, download your grave specific list from the dashboard and organize it by those who are choosing to place the wreath themselves versus those that want volunteers to place it for them. And also, just so you guys are aware, we're very excited to share that this year, the grave specific option will automatically be turned off for your location after the cutoff day. So there won't be any more of those last minute requests coming in the night before wreath day and making things a little bit challenging for you. You'll also want to make sure you decide on a plan for families placing grave specific wreaths for their loved ones. When and where should they pick up their wreath? Will they be placed prior to the ceremony? And then you want to make sure you communicate those instructions through the dashboard messaging. And if you have a Facebook page, that's a great place to share that as well. We recommend printing off the list to help you keep track of which wreaths have been picked up. You can ask your supporting sponsorship groups to help with the grave specific wreaths that need to be placed by volunteers. Some of the larger locations are placing thousands of grave specific wreaths. When you're placing 5,000 to 6,000 grave specific wreaths, you definitely want to make sure that you are bringing on more people to help. So using those sponsorship groups, your Civil Air Patrol groups, your American Heritage Girl groups, it's a great opportunity to get them more involved in the ceremony, and it takes a little bit off your plate too. Just make sure that they understand exactly which grave should receive a grave specific wreath. And if you have a map handy, that's a great tool to have as well for them. Always make sure you set aside some extras in a secure storage area so that you can easily handle any issues or place wreaths for grave specific requests that were missed initially. And always walk the graves after the event to make sure that none were missed. If you're able to take pictures of the grave specific wreath that was placed by a volunteer and have your team send them to the sponsors through the grave specific report with the messaging, it means a great deal to those families that were not able to attend, and they will usually repeat that sponsorship the next year. So it's a great way to kind of build in a returning sponsor year after year. Wreath deliveries are just as important as the placing the wreaths, and we want to make sure that it goes smooth for you. Assign a team of volunteers to coordinate the logistics for offloading the wreath delivery and storing the wreaths until wreath day. This is especially important if you work and you might not be able to be there day of. We rely on donated trucking, and while we do ask our trucking partners to give 24 hours notice for delivery, sometimes that time frame might be shorter due to unforeseen circumstances. So you want to keep your phone close in that 2 weeks leading up to wreath day so that you can quickly answer their call. Arrange to have volunteers at the delivery location ready to unload the truck when it arrives and move the wreaths to a secure storage area. We strongly encourage you that you prepare a calling tree or a list of volunteers who can be ready to assist on short notice with your delivery upon arrival. You also want to make sure that you make arrangements for the wreaths to be stored in a secure area. Again, keep in mind this can be anywhere from the day before to 2 weeks leading up to wreath day. Some good places to check are with the National Guard units, fire stations, VFW post, and other off-site warehouses who may have extra space available. And some of these options will also be able to assist with bringing the wreaths into the cemetery on wreath day. Another important part of delivery is counting your boxes and then confirming that count with us. So you'll need to count the number of boxes that you receive at delivery to make sure that you're taking exactly what is listed on your bill of lading. If there's a discrepancy, recount what you have. If the numbers are still off, you want to contact your regional liaison immediately, preferably while the driver is still there. Assign one volunteer to count boxes as they offload, so it's less confusing when you have multiple people counting. And handheld clicker counters make counting boxes quick and easy. You might also want to consider marking rows of boxes to help you keep correct counts. And because getting an accurate count is very important when it comes to making sure that you receive the correct amount and that we get credits for any that might be short. After your boxes have been received and counted, you need to complete the delivery confirmation form right away to notify us that you have all your wreaths and to report an issue at delivery. If you're receiving multiple shipments, which most of you guys will be, you will want to submit a form for each shipment because that allows us to track that discrepancy better so we can prevent it from happening again in the future. And if you guys were on the webinar Tuesday, this past 2 weeks ago now, this month, we did share some exciting news that we did have new boxes. We're very excited about these boxes because not only can we get more wreaths in less boxes, these boxes are rounded so they'll actually help them keep their shape. And the boxes they have 12 wreaths to the box, they weigh about 40 pounds. The cardboard is sturdier, and so it's going to help prevent them from getting crushed in transportation, which some of you guys have seen in the past when they're stacked up on the pallets and then they kind of all start leaning along the way. So we're really excited about this. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about traffic control. So traffic control is key if you have a big event with lots of people coming in. Some of you may have already experienced some of this. So you want to make sure that you assign a team of volunteers to coordinate the traffic control and parking logistics. Make sure to talk to your local police department about the day of traffic control. Consider having off-duty officers on hand to help direct traffic. Keep vehicles moving and prevent lengthy backups getting into the cemetery or parking areas. Also, ask volunteers to help direct traffic in and around the parking lot so that everyone can get in and out quickly. And don't forget reflective vests for safety. We do have some on our website that's available as well. You also want to think about now how everyone will park. So do you have enough parking available at your cemetery? If not, plan where they will park, considering locations nearby like a warehouse, a school, or other business that would not be impacted by parking on a Saturday that offers free or validated parking. If parking is offsite, coordinate transportation to get them to the cemetery. You can use shuttles, school, city, or charter buses. If you need to bus people in, check with your local school district to see if they can donate buses and drivers. We can provide in-kind donation receipts for services, supplies, and equipment donated for the event. You also want to designate parking that's close to the ceremony location or have a shuttle or golf carts available to assist with transporting visitors with disabilities or the elderly to allow them the opportunity to participate without long distance walking. I know some of the cemeteries are very large, so this is just something you kind of want to take into consideration to have on hand in case it's better to have it and not need it than to not have it and need it. And always communicate your parking and event instructions on your Wreaths Across America location page using page alerts or in your customizations. In addition, sending a message through the dashboard and sharing details on social media and with your local media just to give the visitors adequate time to park and arrive at the ceremony. So you want to make sure once you've offloaded the wreaths, you got to kind of get them ready for the ceremony, making sure that everyone can access them. So you want to schedule a meeting with your cemetery staff to agree upon a plan for which graves will receive the wreath if your location is not fully covered. If your location is fully covered, great, makes it a little bit better. And if you're not fully covered, you do want to probably rotate those sections yearly so that everyone kind of has an opportunity to have their grave covered. Be sure to honor the cemetery's exception list. And if you are at a national cemetery, you need to make sure that you're asking the director for that list because they do keep one on hand for exceptions. You also want to make sure you walk through sections receiving general veterans wreaths to get a count of how many are needed in each area. Then you can stage the wreaths near each of those sections with a proper wreath placement instructions posted clearly for all to see and follow. You can set aside grade-specific wreaths and communicate with sponsors about when and where they can pick theirs up. For those being placed by volunteers, organize them by group and provide them with a map so that they know exactly where to place them. Keep a good number of wreaths in a secure storage area as a buffer for last-minute burials and to help you easily resolve issues for those who thought they sponsored a grade-specific wreath but didn't. Your cemetery director can typically tell you what the average for burials through the holidays are, and it's nice to plan for that coverage for those as well, if at all possible. We all know that distributing the wreaths can get chaotic quickly if it's not planned out right. So we want to encourage you to invite those who have a loved one interred there or who sponsored a wreath to place theirs first by opening it up to the general public before opening it up to the general public. And then we suggest passing out just one or two wreaths per person. You're going to want to kind of depend upon how many wreaths you have versus how many people are actually in attendance. And have them place those before they come get back in line so that we can make sure that everyone has the opportunity to at least place one. And be aware of the lines and try to limit wait times as much as possible by having volunteers at different distribution spots to pass the wreaths out quickly and prevent people from taking more than what would be fair. Consider also having youth organizations like CAP, ROTC, Girl Scout available to help volunteers find their loved ones' graves. Some of our larger cemeteries can be very challenging. Those are some big places. So if you have those volunteers there that have the map handy if it's available, so they can kind of walk them and help them find it so they're not walking all around the cemetery, it's going to mean a lot to them. So next, you don't want to wait to make a plan for how you're going to clean up and dispose of your wreaths. I know it seems like you got a lot of time, but it's going to be here before you know it. So assign a team of volunteers to coordinate the box and wreath disposal logistics and to get necessary supplies and equipment donated for Wreath Day and for wreath cleanup. Plan ahead and contact local waste companies to ask for an in-kind donation of dump trucks, dumpsters, recycle bins, and assistance with disposal once they are filled. Ask as early in the year as possible for the best chance of getting an in-kind donation. You can also check with local fisheries and farmers to see if they can use the wreaths for fish habitats or to feed the animals. Goats love our wreaths. You can also check with your local American Legion to see if they can do a flag retirement ceremony with the wreaths. After the wreaths are burned, you can recycle the metal rings. You can also create an assembly line of volunteers to disassemble the wreaths, then recycle the metal rings to put the greens through the donated chipper for mulch, and donate the bows to local retirement home or school for craft projects. These are just a few of the ways that people have found to recycle the wreath. So if none of these work for you and you want to find another way, reach out to your regional liaison and we can help you try to find another solution. You also want to make sure you schedule your wreath cleanup date with the cemetery staff ahead of time so that you can share the details of Wreath Day on social media to invite volunteers to come back out and help. If you have a national cemetery, also keep in mind that you have to clean it up by a designated date. And we always want to make sure that we are honoring that date and following their rules so that we can continue to be guests year after year. You can also stage dumpsters, trailers, or pickup trucks throughout the cemetery so volunteers can go section by section. You can use a backhoe or other equipment to compress the wreaths to help fit more in the dumpsters. And encourage volunteers to wear gloves and bring broomsticks or ropes to thread wreaths on and easily carry many wreaths to the disposal area. We also have on our Facebook page, we have one of our location coordinators that kind of created this whole little wreath carrying thing out of pipe. I don't even know how to explain it, but many people have followed in his path and created that for their locations as well. And they always talk about how great it works. So make sure you check out that page for other handy dandy tips. So the number one tip for success here is to create a strong planning committee to help you. And we're excited to have some resources that we can share with you thanks to other volunteers giving feedback so that we can provide this for you guys. The Wreath Day Logistics template can help you determine how to delegate tasks and identify volunteer roles needed for your location. The template is an optional tool that you can use to customize for your location specific needs, and it is on that volunteer resource page where so many of our other wonderful top resources are. And it's under the planning section of the volunteer resource page. I had to think about that a second. The next, clear communication is key to strong community support. Keep messages professional and concise and include all pertinent details. Some messages to send to supporters are a call to action to sponsor wreaths for all veterans laid to rest at your location. Make sure you include a total number of wreaths sponsored to date and a total number needed. If you're sharing on social media, that's a great time to use your wreathometer, kind of take a picture of it, of where you have left to go. Also, you can use the messaging to reach out to for Wreath Day volunteer duty assignments and instructions. Include event timeline, a map, and a thank you if you have it. Also, grave specific wreath placement arrangements for those who have loved ones laid to rest. You can message those through the dashboard using our messaging system. And you can even reach out to tell them if you're missing information from that is needed to place their grave specific request. You can use the messaging tool to request more additional information on that to make that possible. And then also for your wreath retirement, you want to make sure you're sending out details so that everyone knows when and where to show up, and then also thanking them after that happens. So the last thing is Wreath Day has arrived and all your hard work is paid off. You guys put in, tons of hours and sweat and tears. You want to make sure that you plan to arrive early before the event. We kind of say an hour, but honestly, for some of the larger locations, I know some people are out there many hours before. Just make sure you're out there early enough that you're available to other volunteers that are coming on, that you have time to set up and organize everyone with their various duties. Your wreath-laying ceremony should start at the time listed on your Wreaths Across America location page. And if you would like to change the time listed, that's okay. Just make sure you reach out to us with your plan so that we can get that updated for you, so everyone knows when to show up. You can also have a dedicated personal person to welcome your local media by showing them to the area where your ceremony will be held. And you might consider having a press kit to provide them with that includes the name and bios of important people in attendance, such as political or military figures, a Wreaths Across America fact sheet, national press release, which we will have available for location coordinators in early December, and the contact information for following up an interview request. During the course of the day, don't forget to take the time to soak it all in and remember why you do what you do every day to lead up to this one day a year. The mission of Wreaths Across America to remember, honor, teach is growing because of you guys and what you're doing. And we appreciate all the hard work you do, because we know that these, it's hard for everyone, but for you guys that are leading this for some of our larger locations, it is truly a year-round project, and we appreciate all you guys do. So that's all we have here for this presentation. Now I just wanted to open it up. I know we don't have a ton of people on, but for those of you who are on, I would love to hear suggestions or if you have questions.
I have a question, Julie, that comes to me all the time that I think is worth putting out there. People often ask, how do I create a committee? Like, how do I go about starting that? Do you guys have some suggestions for how you'd recommend starting that for some of these larger locations? Because I do think a committee is really important for these larger locations.
Well, I think it depends on how many groups you have. Most larger locations have lots of groups. I think I would start off with sending out a message to your supporters and your sponsorship groups and say, hey, we're looking for volunteers. Do you want to help? If you have a list of things that you need help with, go ahead and put that out there as well, and see who kind of comes forward to volunteer. Some people are going to be more eager than others, but you'll never know unless you ask.
I agree.
Julie, this is Karen. I just wanted to say hi to some of the new employees that I haven't met yet. And to the location coordinators are on, just thank everybody, including all the staff, because I think it's important to have these webinars, and just want to say hi to the people I haven't met.
Hello, thanks for joining us.
Can I ask a question about fundraising? Because
Mhm.
that's kind of the key that we're trying to figure out how to get more wreaths at our cemetery here in Indianapolis.
I am going to do you have a specific question or are you just looking for some tips? Because if you're just looking for some tips,
Tips.
I'm going to let Janelle, if you're available, Janelle, to pop
Yeah.
in here, because she is current staff member now, but she was a location coordinator for Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery up until earlier this year. And she brought a lot of growth to that cemetery. So they do a great job there. So, Janelle, have at it.
So, do you have a specific question in regard to fundraising? Or are you looking for more community outreach advice?
Kind of more community outreach. I know I'm trying to get into a farmer's market because I live at Fort Benjamin Harrison. So, and we just had the National Vietnam Wall here, and they had all kinds of stuff. And it's like, oh, we should have had something for Wreaths Across there. Just even an information page would have been nice.
That's a great place to start, is some of the smaller areas where you're allowed to set up tables of information. That way you can get your name out there, get your group, what you're doing in the community to pay back to your community. That's huge here in St. Louis. We like to call St. Louis a large, small town. Basically, everybody knows everybody, and you can spread the word that way. Say Bob knows Sue and Sue knows George, it just snowballs. It's a snowball effect. But one of the things we learned here in St. Louis is most of our smaller and larger companies have veteran organizations within their companies. And
Right.
that's a great place to get in. You just call the main number of any of these companies and say, can I speak with the person who's in charge of your veterans group? And you'll get the names that way. And that gives you a foundation for not only raising funds to cover those wreaths, but also gets you some help to unload those trucks, cover those sections in the cemetery, that kind of thing. I know the 2 LCs in St. Louis are on now. They can probably give you some more information about what they do to reach out to companies and groups and businesses, veteran service organizations. Great place to go. That would be your American Legions, your VFWs, your Patriot Guard, Civil Air Patrol. There's lots of young Marine groups, young Sea Cadet groups. Reach out to all of them. A lot of times they don't know you're here. They don't know what you're doing until you call them to ask.
Yeah. My company, and that's kind of how I got involved with Indianapolis, because my company has started to unbox the wreaths and lay them out in groups in our cemetery. And because we have enough volunteer hours, our company also gives a grant to Wreaths Across America. So, that's just trying to find those people and companies in those military groups is kind of what I'd love to do, but it's kind of difficult as well. So
it takes a lot of work. I will tell you that. It takes a lot of, knocking on doors, picking up the phone to call. My motto is the worst they can tell you is no. So just call and just keep at it until you get to the right person. And that's all it really takes. We've gotten into a lot of the medical facilities that have big veteran service organizations within them. We didn't know that was a thing until we started phone calls and outreach and emails, phone calls. It takes a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And I'd also add that we do have some resources like templated letters and things that you could send to people. I definitely would get some help, obviously, but anytime that you're reaching out to any of these VSOs or other nonprofits in your community, a lot of them don't realize that they could use the Wreaths Across America program to fundraise for their own efforts. And that's a great way to build some groundswell. And honestly, not everyone has financial ability to help out of the gate. So maybe inviting them to participate in some capacity, just like you did, where you started unboxing wreaths, inviting people to come out and volunteer their time. And then they get more interested and more aware of the program, and it, might grow from that respect as well.
perfect. Thank you.
We also
I took
have
names last year. I was like, okay, you're a volunteer. Give me your name and email address. So yeah.
Use those business cards. You can order the business cards right from the store on our line, and that goes far. I mean, the amount of people who pass out those cards, leave them at the cemetery, you'd be surprised what feedback you get from just leaving your cards.
That's a great idea. I would also encourage you to check out our Teach page because we have a lot of materials on there. So schools are kind of out of session right now, but come September when they're all back, share that with some of the local schools because that's a great way for they take that to the schools. It's going to help just spread the word with the kids in the school, and it's an opportunity for them to also sign up as funder sponsorship groups to take advantage of that $5 back for different programs that they may have throughout the year, which then just going to help you guys get wreaths as well. So,
And do you have social media channels for your location?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Chris noted in the chat too, that's another way to try and reach other groups too via social media. You can take a look to see other groups in your area that a lot of kids groups and a lot of programs or ASO groups are looking for volunteer hours too. So it's a nice way to maybe direct message them with opportunities to get involved.
Okay, thank you.
yep. And we do have a templated volunteer service letter on our volunteer resource page that you can use to entice people to kind of take advantage of that community service that they can get credits for with that letter.
If it makes you feel better, and I'm going to make a pitch to the football boosters tomorrow to try and get them to be a sponsorship group for Wreaths Across America. And even I had to stop and think about it, about how I was going to pitch them the value as, because I don't want to sell any more popcorn. So we're going to see if we can get them to sell some race sponsorships. So we'll see.
Good luck. Does anybody else have any other, questions or any feedback or suggestions that you would like to share with Ann or any of the other people on?
That's right. The citywide, we do that too.
Is it a new location, Ann? What location are you at? I'm sorry, I didn't get the clue.
It's not a new location. It's Indianapolis, Indiana. It's Crown Hill Cemetery. But a few years ago we lost a large donor and never really recapped. So
Is Baylor Trucking right there? Is that near Baylor Trucking?
I have no idea. Like BAYLOR?
Mm-hmm. There's
I don't
a large carrier that's involved with Wreaths Across America, and their family is involved, and they're in Indianapolis.
Oh, okay.
You can also, I don't know if you guys have Mission Barbecue nearby, but they're a great resource too. They won't help you for this year because they've already paid out their money for this year. But if you do have one locally, you can go to them. They're great sources for having volunteers come out, help place wreaths, helping unload the trucks, and they do their cup campaign each year, and they get to choose which locations they want to support.
Oh, cool.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, we're going to wrap this up. We will have this recorded. We're going to post it on the volunteer resource page, along with the slides and the template that we talked about. That will be available for everyone. And we may have another call later on in the year, just because I think we didn't get quite as much as I would have liked to have had. So we have a small crowd tonight, but we'll probably do this again later just to give everyone an opportunity to share suggestions and ideas.
Thanks, Julie.
All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening.